But we've been pushing for an Amber Alert, which hasn't been issued. Not just that they could possibly be abducted, which it is a possibility that they could have been.
So he offered to take a polygraph test.
I was extremely nervous, especially with the first question they asked you, did you kill Lilly and Jack?
That was the first question they asked you?
Yeah.
He come up to Malehya, and Malehya was standing there with Meadow on her arm, looking at the phone. And Janie looked at Malehya and said, well, where's the kids? Because she knew the kids were there. She just heard the kids. Where's the kids? And Malehya sort of looked stunned. And then, she said they're in the woods.
Welcome, Mob Crew family. Today's video, we are going to be comparing side by side the two timelines given by both Malehya and Daniel and reveal that either one or both of them are not telling the truth and much more. Now, before we compare both statements side by side, here is a quick recap of what happened in this case so far.
It was from their home in a deeply rural part of Nova Scotia that 6-year-old Lilly Sullivan and her 4-year-old brother Jack seemed to have disappeared without a trace. Despite multiple searches, there's been no sign and little information. The children were reported missing the morning of Friday, May 2nd. Their mother has said they'd been kept home sick that day and the day before. A massive search followed until May 7th, when police announced efforts would be scaled back. Additional searches were held throughout the month. Confirmation they were seen on May 1st helps fill out the timeline.
Since their disappearance, there has been a huge reward offered, along with extended family members pointing fingers at each other, and the RCMP in this case has been silent for nearly 2 weeks. So I thought it would be good to go back to the beginning and compare Malehya and Daniel's statements, as there are many red flags. Comparing both Daniel's and Malehya's statements. Now, before we break down both statements, let's keep in mind the context. Malehya has done only one official video interview in the beginning, and that's it. While Daniel has done many interviews, and most of Daniel's statements about the timeline didn't come in the fashion of a video interview. All of his were quoted in articles. It wasn't until around June 18th that he went over the actual timeline. This is an important detail to keep note of. Malehya's timeline.
What happened was we woke up, I heard them playing in the next room beside us, and I was drifting in and out of sleep, and they're not the type of kids that we tell them not to go outside on their own. We always make sure that we're out there with them, watching them, and they happen to just get out that sliding door, and we can't hear it when it opens. And they were outside playing, but we weren't aware of it at the time, and the next thing we knew, it was quiet, and we get up, and I tell him, my partner, Daniel, I tell him, do you hear the kids? And he says, no. And we get up instantly. We're looking outside. We're looking everywhere, yelling for them. And I instantly just call 911.
So as you could see, I was highlighting any time Malehya used the word we or I when speaking about the timeline. And this will become important when we compare Daniel's versions of events. Daniel's timeline 7 weeks later.
Malehya and the baby were asleep. Lilly came in multiple times. I was not in deep sleep by any means. And then about 20 minutes passed, and then when I woke up, Malehya was right beside me. She was still asleep. And I said, I don't hear Lilly and Jack. I ran up in the woods to the kids. They have cabins up in the woods, which only took me like 30 seconds. I came right back down. She was on the phone with the RCMP.
Now keep in mind that Daniel had 7 weeks to study Malehya's interview and line his version of events with hers. And although there's some things that line up between them, there are some glaring issues that don't. Let's compare the major red flags that don't add up.
What happened was we woke up, I heard them playing in the next room beside us, and I was drifting in and out of sleep.
Malehya and the baby were asleep. I was not in deep sleep by any means.
We weren't aware of it at the time, and the next thing we knew, it was quiet, and we get up, and I tell him, do you hear the kids?
When I woke up, Malehya was right beside me. She was still asleep. And I said, I don't hear Lilly and Jack.
As you can see, there is some major red flags about their accounts. Malehya claims that she was the one in and out of sleep, and was the one that noticed the kids were not making any sound. Yet in Daniel's version, he makes it clear Malehya was asleep, and he was the one in and out of sleeping and heard the kids. But then while editing this, I noticed something really odd when looking back at Malehya's interview, when she mentions Daniel. Let's take a look.
It was quiet, and we get up, and I tell him, my partner, Daniel, I tell him, do you hear the kids? And we get up and I tell him, my partner, Daniel.
Notice she makes this odd look to her right as she begins to mention Daniel while she mentions him as her partner. What's also interesting is this is around the time their accounts of what happened differ greatly when it comes to who was asleep and heard the kids. Now clearly this doesn't automatically make them guilty, but I think not just one, but both of them are not telling the entire truth, as I think both are hiding something. Daniel also had many quotes about the timeline in the first few weeks, and I wanted to point out a few of them that show his story has changed slightly. Now here's an interview with the Canadian press done with Daniel Martell on that first week about the timeline. Daniel Martell said he was in his home in Lansdowne Station, NS, early Friday morning with the children's mother and their 16-month-old baby, when he could hear 6-year-old Lilly Sullivan and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan on the move elsewhere in their home. As soon as I noticed that I didn't hear anything, I immediately jumped out of bed, he said in an interview outside the home. I searched the bedrooms and looked in the backyard because they go looking for bugs and grass to feed the chickens. And when I noticed they weren't there, I jumped in my vehicle and surveyed every dirt road and culvert I could find. Noticed how Daniel only mentioned himself when it came to waking up and searching the home and backyard. Then, in another interview shortly a week later, his version changed slightly with an interview with the Chronicle Herald. Daniel Robert Martell told the Chronicle Herald that he and the children's mother, Malehya Brooks Murray, last heard Jack and Lilly on Friday morning as they lay in bed with their baby. The sun was already up and Lilly came into the bedroom, said Martell. She had a pink shirt on. We could hear Jackie in the kitchen. A few minutes later, we didn't hear them, so I went out to check. The sliding door was closed. Their boots were gone. Notice now he uses the terms we, a bit more unlike the previous interviews, but one thing that has not changed, Daniel always mentions that it was him searching and never mentions Malehya being involved in the initial search for the kids.
I tell him, do you hear the kids? And he says, no. And we get up instantly. We're looking outside. We're looking everywhere, yelling for them. And I instantly just call 911.
It has been over 2 months since Lilly and Jack Sullivan went missing, and ever since alleged family members have spoken out, most of them against the mother Malehya, about allegedly being involved in removing the kids early that morning. The RCMP have been suspiciously silent since that reward was announced, although I do think both of them are hiding something. Here is one last thing I want to point out to the viewers if you think the story about the mother removing the kids early that morning holds some weight.
And they happen to just get out that sliding door and we can't hear it when it opens. And they were outside playing, but we weren't aware of it at the time. And
now, if you think about the allegations against her removing the kids early that morning are true, this statement made by her, which many pointed out was odd, as how does one hear them playing outside if you were both asleep, would then make sense. Again, this all just speculation, and the main thing we all need to do is to keep the kids' name and pictures in the media. Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know if I missed any inconsistencies with Daniel and Malehya. Please smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and thank you so much for watching.